Reappearing Glasgow. This thesis takes inspiration from Chris Leslie's photography series Disappearing Glasgow. In Municipal Dreams, John Burton states the attack on high-rise slides easily and sometimes explicitly into an assault on the form and principle of social housing. This thesis fervently supports the principle of social housing and is to endorse the city's duty to provide for all citizens. But in a disappearing Glasgow, set to a backdrop of bulldozers poised to eradicate any sort of controversial eyesore, this project comes to question the form of social housing. Constructed in haste, desperate to ease Glasgow's 1960s housing crisis, these suburban blocks were devoid of any function bar basic shelter. While the homes were loved by residents, praised as mansions on the skyline, they lacked sense of community, amenities and connection to the city. Glasgow City Council dubbed the high-rise development satellite cities. But what is a city without places, without culture, art, history or any hospitality venues? A suburban dwelling placed on a site without transport infrastructure, on a flat site of grass and greenery with little else to be remarked, with no landscaping or streetscape of any kind. Although meeting the ground like a satellite landing from the sky, these blocks cannot be named a city. Few cities are so defined by what they make as Glasgow. From the threads of textiles to all things iron, the city's ingenuity is cast deeply into its physical fabric. Might the detailed fabric of Glasgow be stitched into these estates, where the weight of Glasgow's former empire could be entwined with the living conditions of today? Could the incorporation of common spaces, places for bars, cafes, art and transport, bring back a sense of community to social housing? Instead of fixating on the already extensively explored critique on high-rise living, this thesis will not only investigate architectural forms, but the programme, functions, materiality and presence of social housing in Glasgow. Interestingly, the overarching theme of social housing in the 21st century is not found in their form, but in their building process. With the need to keep costs low and programme tight, contemporary estates have lent themselves towards prefabrication and panel construction methods. To instill a sense of security for the high-rise residents, an architecture of permanence will be explored through the lens of the slow build process. Methodical techniques such as bricklaying and masonry construction will take precedent to the hurried programmes of the past. A humble process with earnest building materials to create a relatable textured palette for the residents and locals alike. By incorporating past techniques, the very notion of old and new is dissolved. As Bruno Latour stated, there is no such thing as design today, there is only redesign. So to sum up, in an investigation into the fall of social housing across Glasgow, this thesis poses the question, might the functions of a true satellite city be the saving grace of the high-rises still standing?